Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Manoj Attri, your host for today evening, and thank you for joining. I hope we had some. The mortgage broker, an expert, is also on hand today, and I hope we have managed to get his audio fixed up. That was the glitch which we were facing from quite a while, but I think so we may have resolved that. So let's see what's the agenda for today. So again, thank you for joining, and let me guide you with the steps that we are going to do today, and then we'll take it from one by one. So today I'll be again starting with my real estate monologue, and the monologue today is legalities of renting. So let me give you a brief about why we are doing this. And the reason we are doing this is because last time when we were discussing and from renting to buying, we were giving you ideas that in case if you can rent out a portion of your property, you will be able to afford, and it will almost match the same thing that you are paying for rent. But it is not easy to just do the legal renting. So we are here by today walking you through those legalities and what exactly those transpire. We have the mortgage specialist on hand, and we will also take his insight on renting it out. And he's been quite an expert in giving us his info and his experience on rentings. So we will get that particular. Next is, as per discussions from our last times, we'll be doing some property purchasing fees examples. And I'll take one or two examples on the price of the property, and then all those purchasing fees that are associated with it. And lastly, we'll try to cover our rent to own program. As we have discussed, that's one of those formats on which you are trying to have some information. Now, before I go ahead and start the legalities of renting, let me just make sure that some more people may be joining in. So I'll take a short while to discuss two articles with you at the moment. And once that will give us some time so that some people who are almost there can join us, and we then start with the legalities of renting. That's the topic of today. So let me give you two articles that I'm working on for the day, and let's go there. So let's head on to Google. Okay, so this is one of the articles which is saying that Toronto ranked third biggest real estate bubble in the world. And the reason is I'm pointing this out to you in this hot real estate market. Everything is going on smoothly, but I still wanted to give you, always keep this in mind. There are some things happening in the world at the moment, and this has been a recent article that was picked up that Toronto is ranking as the third biggest real estate bubble in the world. Now, why is this particular, what exactly is a real estate bubble? So let's read this out to you so that you can understand here. A real estate bubble forms when the prices of homes are inflating past the inflation of the income. And that is so true in today's scenario, because the prices have gone so high in the past 2 to 3, almost 2.5 years now, that the incomes have not risen that much. So this has been a study done by US Real Estate Bubble Index score, 16 cities overvalued or at bubble risk. So just keep that in the mind, that there are studies going on, and which is at the back inside that where things are down the line. According to the report, prices have stabilized in Toronto over the past year or so. So we know that they are not as acute as they were in 2016 and the entire 2016 and 2017. So they have settled down a bit, but still we are not out of this bubble. Rent control, taxes on foreign purchases, and more government control may be to credit. So those are the things which had been that we are in a bit of a stabilization, but we are not out of it. Next one is higher mortgage cost and tighter lending control can also limit the bubble for the time being. So these are some of the things that are going on in the market, and I just needed to keep you with whatever you are wanting to do or purchase. We are still, this is a recent article posted 18 days ago, and which is like Toronto being still ranked being third in the bubble, and Hong Kong, Munich, and Toronto, and even we are higher than Vancouver here. So that was the first article. Let me share a different article to you. This was another interesting article, and I just wanted to, and the mortgage broker may find it very interesting. So let me, and then we'll take his info on this particular one if he has come across something of the sort. PEI, that is the Prince Edward Island Down Payment Program, praised. So there is a program going on at Prince Edward Islands, which is done by the provincial government. Let me read that out to you. The Provincial Government Down Payment Assistance Program. And this is a very interesting program that they are doing it there. And I would like at any time, because even our elections are coming on the 22nd, and if some of the politicians can pick up on this and assist us, that'll be great for all the Ontarians here. This down payment assistance program is, they are providing interest-free loans. They will provide interest-free loans worth up to 5% of the purchase price of an eligible property to qualified applicants. So this is what the Prince Edward Islands provincial government is doing, and which is amazing, and that is kudos to them. The loans are repayable over 10 years. So whatever they are giving you interest free, and these can be paid off in 10 years time. $1 million has been committed to the program. Okay, for PEI, $1 million may work, but for Ontario we may require more, but someone can look into it, and it will be amazing if someone can figure this out and put something together for Ontarians. We will be able to solve, because see, the main thing here is there is a certain, you are renting and you are wanting to purchase, but the down payment issue is holding a lot of people back. So this particular one will also ease something on our rental demand, and can be a win-win for all. Now, the interesting feature I was also reading here is, this program is being supported by CMHC and Genworth Mortgage Insurance. So that means the high ratio mortgage insurance firms, they are also supporting this particular thing, which is amazing. So that means it is not just being done randomly, it's being put together by, I see mortgage specialist giving me a smile on this one. So I hope he's getting this one. Today's announcement by the government of PEI to support first-time home buyers recognizes the new challenges which exist for those looking to buy their first home. Yes, we have in our previous various webinars have already told you that this is one of the main challenges, and the challenge was the down payment. So we are very happy that the government of PEI is working on it and recognizing it and getting it addressed. So again, thank you to the government of PEI, and hope some of the politicians we can get across in the Ontario and the Toronto or the GTA, which is having our elections on the 22nd, can come up with something of the sort. So that will be quite a help to all of us. Okay, so now let's get into the main format that we are working on and get to our program there. And our program was Legalities of Renting. I hope we have a few more people joining in us. Okay. So now let's start with the format of Legalities of Renting. And again, the reason I am working hard on this one is because in one of our previous webinars, we had explained it to you, if you buy a property, I know it is slightly more than renting, but if you rent out a portion of it, it will be even less or even equal to the amount that you are renting. So you can equalize it with this one, but you have to be very careful about the legalities of renting. Okay, so now this is the best part when you are renting it out. Extra rental income can help you pay your mortgage, the property taxes, and other bills. So that is what we had last time. It'll help you out. It'll help you out in paying those extra mortgage amounts that you are finding it taxing. But it comes with a responsibility, and that is the reason we are going to walk you through some of the articles. Renting a property comes with responsibility and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. So you have to go through it in a very, very responsible manner. And that is where we are going to get on this particular one. So I'll be covering 3 to 4 articles there. So let's go back there to Google and get the first article in place. The first article is, I'm thinking about purchasing a home, and that includes a basement apartment. And I am concerned it might not be legal. So that is where, because some of the listings that you will see at times, you will see it says it's a legal basement. And some of them will say, the seller and the listing agent do not confirm the retrofit requirements of the unit. So that means it is not complying with the legality of it. So that is where you have to understand basement apartment and whether it is legal or not. So let's go with the first risk that is there. There are many risks associated with renting out a basement apartment in a building that is not zoned for accessory apartments. So our first challenge is we have to make sure that that particular property that you are buying has a zoning for accessory apartments, or second suites also, as they are called. This is another caution that has been given by the Real Estate Council. If the unit is already occupied, consult a real estate lawyer early in the process to get proper legal advice. It is very important. If you're trying to purchase a property which is already rented, tenanted, or you are down the line wanting to rent it out, make sure you consult your lawyer and also get proper legal advice when you are trying to do it. You will need to know if the property has been zoned for a multi-unit dwelling and if it meets all requirements of the building, fire, and electrical safety codes. So that is very, very important, because that is when, if they are meeting all these requirements and you have taken a permit accordingly, they can be then classified in the legal formality of it. Otherwise, they are not. Then, this is another one that I would like to highlight here. The City of Toronto, for example, allows for basement apartments in detached and semi-detached home beyond a certain age. Now, I've been able to delve some more, and probably will go and look into the number of years from which year they are there, but detached and semi-detached homes beyond a certain age may fall into this category. But there are additional bylaws and rules you will need to understand before you proceed. So just make sure you're checking out all the things that are there and are able to understand and comprehend that accordingly. Let's look at some of the other highlights here. I strongly advise against buying the home and then renting the apartment to a tenant without first ensuring that the unit complies with municipal zoning bylaws and with provincial building, fire, and electrical codes. So this is a strong advice being given to you whenever you're trying to purchase a property which you're wanting to rent it out later. Okay, it is a caution here. Just because it may be happening now does not mean it's right or legal. If the municipality were to inspect the unit and discover that it does not comply with local bylaws, you could be ordered to bring it into compliance or dismantle it altogether. So there is a heavy caution to you whenever you're trying to do that. You could also face the possibility of fines or even jail time. So it is not an easy thing. You just need to make sure you are covering all aspects of it. Then next one is, there is another substantial risk involved with renting out an apartment that does not conform to current provincial safety codes. And the most important one is your liability. You are liable if you are trying to rent it out and it is not meeting these particular safety codes and other zoning requirements and things like that. If the unit does not comply with recognized safety codes, fire, flood, structural collapse, result in the damage to the tenant's personal property, an injury or a death, you could face a major lawsuit. So it's not all rosy there. You just need to make sure, comply with the zoning, comply with the legality of it. Moreover, your insurance company could deny your claim, and you would have to pay for damages out of your own pocket. So I had whenever we are suggesting you can rent out a portion of it, but you need to go through the whole 9 yards and just make sure those things are covered. Okay, within this particular one, I had another article, and similar to this one, buying a house that has a tenant. Now let's get you more detail about the next phase, that is, you're trying to buy a house that has a tenant. Anytime you buy or sell a property that houses tenants, it is very important you to remember, 1, tenants have rights. Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board takes those rights very seriously, and we have seen it through numerous times that we have been involved with renting it out for so many of our clients and investors, that whenever tenants have very, very good rights here. So you have to be very, very careful about not trespassing those. I recommend speaking to a lawyer who understands landlords and tenant issues. Yes, we also have access to some paralegals who have worked with us in the past, and will be more than happy to give you referrals on those ones. But yes, it is very, very even before you start, I mean, our suggestions to you is, even before you start renting it out, this person should be already has been interviewed, and you have gone through the whole 9 yards with him before getting into this one. Next phase here. Our landlord has the right to put their property up for sale at any time, and a tenant cannot prevent potential buyers from viewing their homes. So some of the points that I'm going to go, which are the highlights, and so that you can get a brief scenario, what things can be done, what things cannot be done. A tenant must receive a 24-hour notice, and the showing can occur between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Next one is, you're not allowed to photograph the property while it is occupied by a tenant unless they provide their express consent. And this is very important. You must make sure that you have their consent. It is better to get it in writing. Just make that you're covered completely. If you decide to purchase the house, it is a good idea to obtain a copy of the tenant's lease, so you know how long they have been living in the building and the terms of the agreement. Very, very important here, so that you know what are his rights, what are your rights, what are the terms of the agreement, etc. Unless the tenant has violated the terms of the lease, you cannot normally evict the tenant until and unless their lease has expired. Make sure. So it is not that you can just come and tell him, sir, you need to go. No, you cannot do that, sir. If the tenant is paying month to month, meaning the lease has expired, you must give them adequate notice to vacate the property. And so again, most of the time it is 60 days, but check with the whichever area you are in, and what are the regulations, rules and regulations at that particular area. And this one is also interesting. As an owner, you are allowed to evict the tenant if you plan on living in their unit or allowing certain family members, but making sure that it is illegal for a home buyer to evict a tenant under a false claim of the landlord own use. So do not misuse it, because it can come back to haunt you. If you evict your tenant and they find out you weren't truthful, the tenant could sue you for moving cost and the higher rent paid at their new home. So just be very careful what you're doing. And these are some of, I'll now get you into a very, some of the pros and cons. Another article which was, I found very interesting. I'll just be covering it slightly faster, and that is the pros and cons of renting out part of your home. Again, on the surface, it seems like a fabulous idea. The rental income to pay some of your mortgage amount, and you can live basically rent-free also. It's not possible, but yes, there is a good chance that you're mitigating some of the amount of money there. The pros are extra money that you will be receiving each month. There are some things that you may have to do some renovation in order to suit the requirements of your tenants, and they may increase the value of the property anyway. Now, the cons are, you cannot put off any repair. You are now a landlord and you have now inherited a responsibility. So some of the things, in case if it was your own house and you had some repair to do, you could have put it for a second time and figured it out. No, we'll do it next time. But now you will have to get that addressed. And now let's say suppose you have done some of the renovations and they may not suit you for the that they may not be that better setup when you are trying to sell the property. So just be very careful. Also, you have to make sure whenever you are doing any renovations or renting out, you have to be careful about the provincial and municipal regulations. And repairs also sometimes can be expensive, so those have to be taken into consideration there too. These are the 6 things that you should keep in mind, and know the laws and follow them. Make sure you are trying to be with the legal side of renting. Have a backup fund. This is very, very important. Do not depend on rental money as the primary source of income. That should be supportive, but just do not completely rely on that. Like, okay, something goes wrong and the tenant has stopped renting and you may now be defaulting on your mortgage. So mortgage flexibility, make sure this is also there. Like in case if you have a fixed rate mortgage and you do not, and you may have to miss on a monthly payment if you're solely depending on it. Next one is always have written and signed documentations to cover all your bases. Make sure this is a must. Whatever you do, if it is in writing, that is what exactly it is. Do not, verbal agreements will not stand their base there. Check-ins. You can also have monthly visits to ensure that your property stays in good shape and they are properly accommodated. Next one is a real estate lawyer should be at the top of your list. If he's costly, then you can also try to work with a paralegal. But I mean, again, take advice. Take both the first preference would be given to a real estate lawyer. Overall, renting your home can be a viable source of income if you do it properly, and it comes with responsibility, and again, it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Okay, so now I'm going to give you 2 websites, and these 2 websites are a must for any landlord. This website is called Second Suites. It is called a landlord's self-help center. On the, again, you can see it, landlordselfhelp.com. All these links are under your live streaming, and if you go show more, all of these links, I have provided you links for all of these ones, so make sure you can go directly in there. This is a very, very important website for you to be if you are planning to become a landlord. Landlord's Self-Help Center is a non-profit legal clinic funded by Legal Aid Ontario and mandated to support Ontario's small-scale landlord community exclusively. It is a must for you to go in here. At this moment, there is a poll going on by the Toronto Star, which says, Toronto Star published a survey about rent controls in the GTA. Please take a minute to add your voice to this poll. So if you are presently a landlord, you can be a part of this one poll there. And if you want to have a say in the rent controls in the GTA. There is a landlord forum, and you can go there. You can see all the event details and registration there. So these are very, very important landlord help here. Next is, this is the one that I'm going to go to, this particular link, frequently asked questions. This frequently asked questions will answer many, I mean almost many of your questions will be answered here. Let's go to this frequently asked questions, and I have it marked on a page which is called Second Suites, and this is, so it is explaining it to you here. I would like to upgrade an existing second suite. Is it necessary to prove the suite existed before July 14, 1994 in order to legalize it? So there are some dates for detached and semi-detached properties to fall under the second suites category. Now I am under my half an hour mark, so I'm just going to be brief here. And this frequently category is, you go through this particular one, and on the left hand side you will see amendment and belongings agreement to terminate, altering lock, appliances, bad faith orders, bed bugs before you rent, cleanliness, you name it, and you can go through this whole list. It is trying to cover as many things that can come: tenant eviction, tenant insurance, tenant screening, tenant need assistance, utilities, visitors, vital services, who is the landlord, you name it, and you'll be amazed, you'll find answers here. This is an important read here again before you rent. Let's see if I can get you on this particular page, and you will see, if you read a few of these ones, you will understand how trivial these queries are and how they have addressed even the minute details here. Is the tenant allowed to operate a business on rental property? Is the landlord responsible for installing an AC unit? So you may have these small questions as and when you are going, and this particular website, this frequently asked questions, will answer you to the details. I've already accepted a last month's rent deposit from a prospective tenant. However, I have changed my mind about renting to the tenant. What can I do? Okay, so the tenant lied about his references on the rental application. What can I do about this? You can go on and on and on. Can we specify we want the rent to be paid electronically and not by post-dated checks? You will find your answers to many queries here. The tenant don't have a lease. Does that make a difference? Or offer me more potential methods of eviction? I wish. No. So there are lots of legalities here. My tenants were on a joint tenancy agreement. They have now separated and one person has moved out. Is the one person who is left behind still legally responsible for aforementioned lease? The reason I am reading out a few of them to you is trying to tell you, you will find your answers here. One of my tenants wants to bring a friend to live with them. How can I screen this person through a proper application process? You can go on, and you will find your answers on this particular page. And this was the link that I had emailed it to you, which is called Frequently Asked Questions when you are renting it out. Go through it and you will find that you are in better shape than you started with. Now, last one I'm leaving with you here is the forms. The residential tenancy forms have changed, and so you have to go through this particular. Again, the link is in the live streaming where you exactly find it, and you can go through this residential tenancy agreement. You can fill, print and save it here, or you can view and print it here. So all these links are there. You can acclimatize yourself to these ones, and so you will understand lots of these particular forms. And starting April 20, most of the private rental units will be required to use this form. This is the latest form and it has come into effect, and we all have to use this particular form for all future ones. Okay, so this brings me to the close of my legalities of renting, and now let me see if I can bring our expert here at this stage. And before we go into the details of the 400K property purchase, let me see if I can get him on board. Hi Faisal.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Very fine. Okay. I want, till the time I just take his few minutes before I get into the details of it, that if everyone can hear us and if they can write yes on the chat, or if someone can give me an update that they can hear him loud and clear this time, we will be
Please,
greatly appreciate
please do. I would
that.
say
Yes.
there's a lot of effort put into this.
Oh, it was, I think so. It was great help that we finally are on board. And you had a strong support today to
Yes.
put it together. I'm really grateful that we can hear you out today. And so, yeah. So now let me go through a few of the things that we had discussed today. And let's see if I can get your thoughts on this particular one. My first thought request was from you. How did you like this program, which the PEI, that the Prince Edward Island provincial government is doing?
You know what? It's an incredible program. It's an outstanding program. There are smaller regions that have started something similar, but it is not on provincial level. And PEI, I believe, if I'm not wrong, it's the first province that took this program on a provincial level. There are smaller programs for the area, municipality type of investment, but they also have um, other I guess conditions that if they invest 5%, they do need the 5% of the profit back, and so on and so forth. Um, yeah.
I was also under the impression Brampton used to have a program like this.
Yes.
Yes.
Brampton.
Go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
Brampton does have a program like this. Yes.
But I mean,
York region. It's called York region program.
okay. But I've heard that they sometimes. Okay, give me 1 second. I am getting info that we are hearing you lighter. So let me increase your volume for Skype. Okay, I think so. I have just updated, put yours higher. So I think so they should be able to hear you now clear, loud and clear. Okay. So let's get back. Okay. But in the Brampton or the Peel region,
Mhm.
I had heard that it keeps on coming and going. It's not that it is always active. Is that right?
Um, I did hear something about turned off for some time, but I've also seen new builders being able to bring that program back in that area, particularly.
Okay. So
So
we will have to dwell more into it. Huh?
yes, we will have to go into more detail. But PEI is the first province that has taken this on a provincial level.
Wonderful.
I mean, PEI is also much smaller.
Yes.
It's easier for the politicians to be able to, execute that program on that level.
Yes. True.
Uh,
True. Absolutely true. Okay. Now let me get your insight. Let me get you on this one. Give me 1 second here. Let me get your insight into the renting. How, like we had gone through, what are your like thoughts on this particular renting that we had been talking about?
you know, it's very interesting how renting market has changed. I should say has increased in terms of payments, rent payments, due to the property price hikes. Because I guess it is natural for a landlord, if they have to pay a higher dollar amount to buy a property, that cost does trickle down. and at the end of the day, the person who's benefiting from that property with, living inside the property has to pay the cost, and the cost has gone up.
Okay, now I'll ask you 3-4 scenarios. You guide me accordingly. Okay, trying to rent out the entire house. How does it work?
When you rent out an entire home, you fall. I'm not an expert because I'm not fully an expert, but I'll give you what I have done because me as a landlord, I have gone through all these motions.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure you're aware of it.
yes.
There were lawyers involved, there were paralegals involved, many different scenarios. So when you rent out an entire home, you fall under an act called Landlord's Tenant Board Act. And what that means is anything that a tenant has a problem with, you have to address in a certain time period. And if there is a damage that the tenant has taken, you also have to replenish that. For instance, I'll give you a simple example. The fridge broke in one of my properties about 4 or 5 years ago, and it took me about 24 hours to get a fridge technician there and get the fridge fixed. Now, it was just after, like, couple of days after the tenant has gotten paid from their work, and therefore they had stocked the fridge to the max, and all that food went bad. So I did not just have to pay the fridge repair cost, but I also had to bear the cost of food being replenished.
Wow, wow, wow. That's an insight. Yes, that is what I wanted. Like, yeah.
Now,
So things, yeah, things are not as simple as they seem like.
they are not simple, but thankfully our society has developed a system, and as a landlord, you are under higher scrutiny, I guess, by the law regulators to make sure that you follow the process, because at the end of the day, it's your property, and you are renting, and you as a landlord is benefiting from the monthly payment of rent.
Okay. Now, second thing here is, let's say, suppose, what is if you're only renting out a portion of the unit?
Mm-hmm.
How is it different than renting out the whole property?
So now here things become a little bit more complex. So you're living in a same home. Let's just say it's a semi-detached or a detached, or a home that can have a basement, is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
A condo may not be a good example.
No, but obvious, no.
So let's say there is a home that has a basement. Now the landlord has a choice: either they live on the main floor and they're renting the basement, or they live in the basement and they rent the main floor.
Mm-hmm.
Either one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the mortgage lenders have recognized that basements are being rented. Even some insurance companies have recognized higher insurance costs, of course. However, the mortgage lenders, what they have started to do, and CMHC and all insurers have a program where part of your rental income may qualify towards your mortgage payment, monthly mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is, one, it gives you a bit of a cash flow. So every month, if let's say your mortgage payment along with taxes and such is $2, and you're renting the basement for $900, now you have to come up with $1,100.
Oh, okay. So there are implications if you're renting it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you look at it even in detail, um, I strongly and I agree with your point of what you said, that don't rely on the rental income. Um, use rental income as a support, because there are times when tenants are either their health has deteriorated, they've lost a job, or one thing or the other, and even though they want to make the rent payment, they're just not able to because there is no paycheck. Now,
Very
when
true.
that
Very true.
okay, when that comes in, um, you know, you're allowed to go and complain to landlord tenant board, and there's a whole system and whole process in place. But uh, on the human level, you still have a tenant that lives in your basement and is not able to pay you your monthly rent.
Yep.
And if you don't have 6 months, I would say 3 to 6 months worth of rental payment of theirs, it's hard. It will be hard, and money can create quite quite the stress.
I knew you would have tremendous insight into the practicality of it,
Yeah.
because even no matter how effectively we are able to explain, and we have all the write-ups there, but then you go through even more details which are not even written here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, there's a whole lot more that I can go on, but our
I
time is
can
limited.
understand.
I
Yes.
want to keep it very simple.
Yes.
The same tenant that is not being able to pay, you have to see them. You
Yes.
see them on a daily basis,
Yes.
and there is a disagreement. There is, there's other things besides just the rent payment. They may not clean the place as much because they're
Oh.
not happy living there.
Oh, and okay. Okay.
You
So
are bothering them.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Now
They
you're
may.
getting into the details. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be very, very. It's an exercise that you will
An
have to be
exercise.
prepared. Yes.
What I do recommend is anytime there's a client that brings up that I want to pay like rent part of the home, my line is, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Understand what you're getting into. Let me give you some resources. Read, understand, go talk to a legal advisor. It can be a lawyer, it can be a paralegal. One of the two can, explain you. Just prepare
Have
yourself.
have not take the whole risk right on day one. Yes.
Exactly.
Have some
Prepare
help.
your.
Have some advice, and accordingly. Wonderful. It was awesome. I knew like these insights were very, very important, and that is why I wanted to share that out from you, get that info from you. Okay, let me complete them. The interesting part, which is our like the third in the agenda, which is like let's go again. Thank you very much. Just remain there.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, because these 2 or 3 simple points, I mean, no, these frequently asked questions will even miss them. So they were very, very helpful and essential. Okay, so now let's pick up the next one, which is a 400K property purchase.
Okay.
Okay, see, this has been the question that has been asked many times. What all are all the fees? So let me break it down for you, and let me see if I can explain it to you. Now, let's give you an idea here. The income requirements are $80,000 for a freehold property. So you can multiply it by 5 times to get 400K property purchased. And if you're trying to buy a condo, then you need to have 100K as your annual gross income, or the combined family income to be 100K annual gross income. So these are the basic minimum requirements for purchasing a property which is around 400K, which I had gone in depth on my various other webinars. And again, in the end, I'll tell you where you can have a look at all these previous webinars so you can get a good idea about them. Okay, so the first of all is that you will require a down payment of 5%, which is close to $20,000. Simple maths, not very complicated, that you will require a minimum down payment of 5%. I am working on some thumb rules. These are approximate cost. The lawyer will give you the exact closing cost. We generally take it as 1.5% for a first-time buyer, and they can go all the way up to 2.5% for a second-time buyer, and depending upon your price category and the exactly where you are. But on a thumb rule, just let's work on a round number being 1.5% of the purchase price, and that comes down to close to $6,000. Next is, so the total amount that you may be requiring here is close to $26,000. So be prepared for a starting income requirement of around 6.5% of the total price. So if you're looking for a property of up to $400,000, you need to have around $26,000 as the down payment. Now, there are some lenders you have to, on their approval only, on their approval criteria only, that you may be able to get a maximum of 3% cashback. And whenever you have to be very careful and you have to be very knowing that the interest rate is slightly higher when you are trying to get a cashback. So just make sure that you get this number very clearly, and that number is maximum cashback is around 3%, which is around $12,000, and the interest rate is higher. So I'm trying to get out of the scene so that you can understand. And so down the line, next one is, so the total amount, I mean, which may be gone out of your pocket in the end would be $14K, because $12K you may get back. You are wanting to say something.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to say, and I say this to all my clients, interest rate is not everything.
No, you are very right.
3%,
yes, go ahead.
3% cashback. Yes, interest rate is slightly higher, no questions. However, you look at the flip side of it. So there's always two sides to a coin. And the second side, so yes, you're paying higher interest rate, but if you look at the math, the monthly payment that you're paying more for the higher interest rate, because it's only a term of 5 years, it's not a longer term. So the monthly payment you're making is very similar to what you would pay if you had more down payment. So let's just say if you did not take the cash back at all, and you had 5% of your own, versus you take the cash back, in the end, it does not make much of a difference. In fact, you get on the property ladder faster with a cashback mortgage than a non-cashback mortgage.
Absolutely. I also like whenever they after their discussion, I always tell them, have a look at the interest rate and also have a look at the per month payments, and then work out the numbers. Just not look at one aspect of it, look at the both aspects of it.
And another thing to add to that, which I usually even go further, is look at the property 5 years average. You will make that much more next year. If you keep saving towards the down payment, you may not be able to buy the same property for 2 more years, where someone else will buy that property 2 years before you do, and then they will sell the same property to you for a higher price.
Absolutely. So I mean, you can get into the market much faster and
Yes.
go through the numbers instead of just getting stuck at the interest rate
Yes.
scenario. Wonderful. Now let's give you, okay, so that was the initial deposit. Now let me give them, how much is it going to cost you per month? We are going to go first with freehold, and detached properties. Detached properties are, and the freehold properties are, those without maintenance. And then we'll look into the ones. So now you're trying to buy a property which is like around $400,000, and the let's give you how much is going to be the mortgage amount. So the mortgage amount, I'm giving you round numbers depending upon the interest rate and things like that. You should be fine when I'm saying for a $400,000 property with 5% down payment, you'll be close to $2,000. Next is the utilities. On an average, you come up on a freehold properties with heating being gas and forced air, you should come with utilities approximately close to $300 per month. Next is the property taxes. We are again taking some round numbers, and in various parts of the city, you should be fine with $300 per month. It may be slightly less or slightly more, but 300 as a round number will work it out for you. And the home insurance, again, I'm going at the higher end and trying to wrap it up. So for a property which is $400,000, which is a detached property with 5% down payment, the approximate amount of money that you're looking per month is close to $2,700. This is a general rough estimation. I'm trying to give it to you. And once you go into the details, you can get the exact amounts. Let's go and look now if that property was a condo or a condo townhouse. Now, in this particular one, you will have an additional $300 because the maintenance, instead of $300, may go all the way to up to $600, because condo and condo townhouses has a maintenance fee, and that will come into effect. So if you're trying to buy a condo or a condo townhouse, your approximately per month may land you all the way up to $3,000. So that was the 400K property. And now I think so we are almost within 2 or 3 minutes left for the end of the webinar. And I think so the rent to own program detail will be picking it up right on our next scenario. And let me now give 1 or 2 details back to all of you, so that we're about to wrap up now, and let's guide you here. So couple of things in here I wanted to share it out with you. Give me one moment here. Okay, this is the page that you have generally. Let's get there. So let me open it up, and as soon as that page comes in over, I'll take you again there, where you can see all our previous webinars. So I think so that has yes, I have that page now. So give me a moment here. So whenever you're going to, let me now get you on that particular page. Give me a moment here. So now we have this particular page, which is the Google. This is where my main page is, and most of you may have come and registered there, which is manojatri.com/webinar. And when you scroll down on this particular page, you will be able to see webinar videos, and once you click on this one, you should be able to go and see all our previous versions there. So all our previous versions are there, and I'll see if I can get you on that page again, just to show you all the previous webinar are there. You can go around about it, and I think so we should be able to cover the rent to own program in sites for next week completely. And also next week, we are going to cover, as you all know, on the 17th of October, we are having a legalization of marijuana, and what are the effects on condos, and what are the implications on real estate. There will be like what happens to if you're trying to buy a power of sale property with which is like was a grow house. So all those things can come into effect. So let me take you back on that particular page. We are here now. So this is the page, and if you go further down on this particular page, you will be able to see all the previous webinars. That is the introduction, the down payment, then rent versus buy, it pays to own, and today's webinar also will be shortly updated there. So before I can wrap it up, yes, so now I needed to show you one of the more pages on the website. Yes, I have it on Google right away now. That is where this is the main page which I sent you by email, that if you can subscribe to this email newsletter, where I curate around 8 to 10 articles for you on a daily basis and email it to you, giving you the highlights of the day, what is going on in real estate, and what are you today's highlight was what making home sale data public will mean for homeowners. So as you have already known that the real estate board is now supposed to show all the sold data and what are the implications that are going on. So that is what it is coming down to. Like there are 3-4 things that are happening in the market which is changing, which will change quite a lot of real estate as per the pundits. One is this particular sold data which has become available to the general public, and it is now available, and it may now be throughout other areas also, because the main real estate board has to implement this particular format. Then there are the real estate bubble that I had talked to you about. The incomes are not matching the rise in the prices, so that scenario is there. And thirdly is there are lots of US and China tariff trade wars, and they are still in the process and in the pipeline. So let's see how all those things play around, and that is where in the end we will be all affected with. I think so. I've gone 1 or 2 minutes more. Again, I will thank you all for joining today, and next week we will be there covering cannabis in condos and the rest of the rent to own program completely. So stay with us, tune in next Monday 7 to 8 p.m. and again a big thank you to our expert mortgage broker and agent Faisal Garcia. Thank you, and I will also have his links in the in our live stream and show below, so everyone can access his websites and avail his credit repair expertise and his mortgage expertise there. Wonderful. Thank you again, Faisal. And let's call it an evening. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.